always constant with definitions.
Right. So that.
See, all that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
All three of them have to jive.
Yes, correct. And that's the problem when you have to have, it's hard enough to get two things to jive. Now you get three.
Plus, I have a whole list of stuff that I found in other land use tables that I think we need to consider.
Yeah.
Just in case we do actually have a meeting. Well, it'll be a workshop regardless, I guess.
I figure that if we were gonna go through the land use tables, we might have enough
I
time
have
between now and
some
the
of
end to get
these
through just the
that
land
are
use table.
old documents from prior.
What do you
meetings. You probably
I hope
want
so.
for
I use
You mean the
land use
old
chart
agendas?
definitions.
Are the old,
meeting
almost exclusive.
attendance and stuff when I did the minutes and stuff.
I think those were recorded. You can hand them to me anyways. I'll
Yeah.
double check anyway, just in case. Never hurts.
Of, the zones that is been not found in the chart. With recreation facilities, including parks, playgrounds, golf courses, and driving areas. Recreation facility.
Oh, yeah. Oh, perfect. I'll take it. Thank you.
With the definitions.
Yeah, what I do, Mike, everything is on this, and I back this up to an external hard drive at home, so if
Yep.
it gets lost,
Perfect.
we get the hard drive.
Yep. I meant to finish, I didn't send an update because I ran into, I just got distracted, but even though you send it to me in Word, when I upload it to the Google Docs, that converts it to a Google Docs document, not a Word document. So it's no longer in Word format. That's why when I share it, I can say view only, which allows you to download it, print it, and copy it.
Yeah.
You can't edit
Oh,
it.
yeah,
on
I mean,
Google Docs.
doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Because
No, I
I
just wanted
got
to
it
make
on
sure you
this.
do that. Yeah, that's fine. And that's the right way to do it.
Don,
I'm here
You know,
in body at least,
in body.
not sure about the rest of it.
I don't think we have a quorum, so it might be a workshop meeting, but just in case.
Thank you.
what did we decide what quorum was?
It's gonna have to be five,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
so it's just four of us, oh, well, we still got time.
Yeah.
Somebody can show up.
I know Matt's not gonna be here, I know Peggy's not gonna be here.
Yeah, Steve ain't coming.
Okay. Well, that's,
Steve and Buzzy both sent an, I think email, might have been a text, I'm not sure.
I didn't see any come to me, so.
Yeah, I saw that,
Was it a text or was it an email?
email.
Steve sent an email, I don't know about Buzzy.
Did they send it to the
I
line
saw it.
RC?
I don't know where it went. I guess, oh, yeah,
Right. I don't remember seeing it in my thing, but-
It was later, it was like 3:34.
oh, it was late,
Okay.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's probably why I didn't see it here. Yes, okay, yeah, there it is. Yep, yeah, at 2:20 and 3:43, that's why I didn't see it there. Okay, yeah, here's the final email saying, couldn't deliver to brent.lawson@maine.gov. Go figure.
I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, but I haven't tried
Took
to.
me on vacation too, but I don't know,
He
usually
usually lets us know.
But
Yeah.
usually it's gonna, if it's,
bounces. You know.
yeah, it's gonna go in his inbox at least.
I would think so, yeah.
And he always, he doesn't always, but almost always gives us daily snippets on that news chatter thing.
Sure you didn't like win the lottery or something?
Yeah, maybe he won that lottery.
Yeah, right. Should probably check on that, huh? Exactly.
I bought my ticket again today after my 2 loser tickets yesterday.
I win every day. I
Yeah,
never buy a ticket.
Yeah. Well, you don't buy a ticket, you can't win.
That's correct.
Exactly.
So
Well, we
what, we
should-
don't have a quorum tonight? Is that-
Yeah, we should probably get going officially then.
Yeah, 6:30.
We don't have a quorum, but according to what we amended our, trying to think of the right term.
Bylaws?
Thank you, that's what I was looking for. Our bylaws too, which I still have to get an updated copy to Lindsay, was that if we didn't have a quorum, we would still hold a workshop meeting. We just can't vote or anything, but we can line something up to be voted at the next meeting where there is a quorum if we want to, if we like to. So we can make use of this time if we want. And we'll get going. Want to do that? So, that being said, call the meeting to order, or the workshop to order, I should say. We probably could still stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, even though it's
Yes.
still a workshop. And Peggy's not here because her son's graduating from boot camp, so
Oh, good
we'll
for
be
him.
thinking of him as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So whereas this is not a formal meeting, we don't have to review the minutes or any of that. We'll push that off to the next
They
meeting.
get tabled to the next meeting.
Table to the next meeting, yep, exactly. We don't have to adopt the agenda. So, I wasn't here obviously last meeting, I did watch it, and I did scribble a bunch of notes down, and I wanted to just lob this out there for consideration. But let me first state that I completely agree that we have, I'm gonna call them the hot ticket items, that we wanna make sure that we get to, we got 11 meetings after this one left. And we want to make as much progress as we can on getting what I would consider, I think we all consider, viable, needed changes into the ordinance that can stick. Or we feel that, would be approved, and try to limit us spending too much time on items that, clearly need a lot of revamping, a lot of discussion, back and forth and whatnot. So I think we're all agree with that. The issue with contract zoning, I think, kind of falls squarely into that. However, I do agree, Dave, I think you're the one that mentioned it at the meeting, or one of them that said, we definitely want to address that to some degree. And not just table it because we've got ADUs to deal with, and because that's important too, and we've got a whole bunch of other hot ticket stuff that we want to clean up as much as we can. So I'm gonna just mention this and food for thought that we can push off for a vote at the next meeting. But I think, Dawn, I think you brought up on multiple occasions now a proposal as to what we could do with the current wording of contract zoning. And specifically, and I seem to remember too, and if I can find the damn email, I know I have it someplace, that when I was on the planning board and, Funky Bow came back up because they wanted to make an amendment. I seem to remember that one of the primary reasons for contract zoning that fit into the comprehensive plan was for people to be able to use their homes as a business, so they could work out of their homes and whatnot. Now, that was all pre-COVID, so, COVID obviously changed a lot of things.
We discussed that before. That's not true, because people are already allowed to work out of their homes.
Right, but I'm talking if they wanted to expand like their home base. Like Funky Bow is a good example, right? He's got a residence there. To the residential district. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you, but like I should say, not the only reason for contracts. I mean, one of them was that so people could have an expanded use of their residential property. That meadery on Hill Road's another good example, right? They built a building, it's still a residence. They want to have a meadery, and they want to be that there. I don't know if they want to be the sole income, but it's going to be income, obviously. That would have been, that'd be a good example of that. I think though, and so I think we all agree that that's a good thing. We want people to be able to, if they have the land and they meet all the other requirements, you can work from your home property and might have to expand it or improve the property a little bit, and everything fits in, and the planning board and the select board all agrees with it. That's a good use for contract zoning. And I think, Dave, you also said, and I agree with you, that a lot of work went into the Funky Bow contract zone, and that was done well, and Funky Bow's a great place, I like going there. Nobody's beating down the doors of the town saying, I'm gonna sue the town if they don't fix this problem over here, so I think they've been a good neighbor, and I think that's just because a lot of good work was done into making that. But, can I say one but? But, I think the crux of the problem, we can make it real simple.
Tell you what the crux is.
Yeah, is section F, number 3,
What page are you on, please?
5, which is consistent with but not limited to the existing uses and permitted uses with any zoning district, and number 4, that follows it. I think we have two choices. Our comprehensive, the contract zoning directly attaches to the comprehensive plan. It says it right in the beginning under the, the purpose. We know our comprehensive plan needs work. We gotta change it, expand it, or make it more applicable to where the town's heading and all the things that are in front of us. And contract zoning should follow that. We either vote to take contract zoning out completely at this time, I'll say it that way, because I do think contract zoning, as it's written, just my personal opinion, it needs a lot of work to make sure that we do it right, and make sure that it addresses the comprehensive plan as it's going to be eventually. So in other words, if we're trying to put the cart before the horse, we're not going to have the time to go through every bit of contract zoning and come to a conclusion and saying this looks good and it's already fit for whatever comprehensive plan that we have. I think that's putting the cart before the horse. So we either vote to just abolish it completely now and then revisit it later. It can always be added in at a future revision after we've had some time. With time, and we've had more time to think about it. We've addressed other key things that could affect. Think about it. If we're going to expand how many residential units you can put on a property, contract zoning, that could get out of hand in some cases, the way it's currently written, I think. So we either vote to get rid of it now, or at a minimum, we vote to get rid of that one line on section F, number 3, which is consistent with but not limited to the existing uses and permitted uses within any zoning district. Brenda?
So, and I'm home occupations have to be permitted by the CEO.
Mhm.
The CEO can only permit an home occupation that is allowed in the zone. So if someone in the residential district came to me and said, I want you to brew beer as a home occupation, and home occupation, you can, I think, only have one employee and a couple of family members.
Right.
There are some restrictions to it. So contract zoning is for something that isn't allowed in that zone. So to link home occupation with contract zoning, I think is very wrong, that it doesn't blend. That was my.
Yeah, that was never the intent. I mean, I was on the board
But
when
it's what it is.
we drew up and it had nothing to do with home occupation.
Exactly. And I think it was brought up at the last meeting that if home occupation grows, then it needs to become contract zoning. One's got nothing to do with another. They're
Right.
not compatible even a little bit.
Right.
So I think we have to remember that and take that thought right out of the equation.
Right, like if you go back to Funky Bow, for example, or the meadery, they're brewing beer and mead, over there, and it's a business.
It is this.
And it's a big business, it's a good business, for that area, it's a residential district, but it's a good business, but, yeah, so anyways.
And I think that if you look at the different contract zoning situations that are in place, none of them started as a home occupation or should have started as a home occupation. If one of them did, that's just, has nothing to do with anything. But the other, I think I've been a major proponent of contract zoning. And I still think it's got more problems than what it's worth. But I think at this point, until we get the land use chart really workable,
Right.
and really making it so the planning board can do their job, we have no business changing contract zoning, except for those couple of weasel words.
Right.
We can look at those, but I think, and I would never believe I would say this, but I don't think we're there yet to even think about eliminating contract zoning until the land use chart is perfect.
Right, and the two are tied together. Like I think, and I heard, and I agree at the last meeting that, we can get right through here, that, that the land use chart needs work. I think somebody even mentioned other towns have a lot more land uses defined than we do, and that probably makes sense, considering, what they're going through. But, so the two are tied together. If you're gonna do a contract zoning right, you probably need more land use districts defined.
I think if you've got a good comprehensive land use chart, you don't need contract zoning. If
Probably.
it's done well, in what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I have pulled off some land use charts from some of the other towns that I think are somewhat comparable to us. And I didn't know, some of them are really lengthy, maybe too, I don't know. But if you want me to get them to you, so maybe you can put them up on, so you could just even read through it.
I think it would be good if you did
Yeah.
send them out, take a look at them.
Okay.
George, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I stated where I stood on the contract zoning because I fail, and maybe Dave can edify me, because I know Patty, the former code enforcement officer, was very much in favor of contract zoning. I fail to see where it benefits the town of Lyman. You keep referring back to Funky Bone. Well, they're gonna be grandfathered, so they're looking ahead. I'm trying to identify where does the town of Lyman benefit without incurring tremendous liability in the risks of what happens with contract zoning. That's where I'm struggling.
And let me take a crack at rephrasing what you just said, to see if you agree with this. There's better ways to handle what we had hoped contract zoning could deliver to the town of Lyman by other means, which is land use tables that are done correctly, and maybe a couple other things. But, so in other words, if we do it right the other way, we don't necessarily need contract zoning and open ourselves up to liability.
The liabilities,
Right.
look at what's happening with R&R. I mean, the guy's expanding. He's gonna have a big business there. He's already got, 5 trucks?
But he's under a contract, He's,
Right, yeah.
I mean, he's contract zoning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's contract. So what I'm saying is, you give somebody a contract zone, they invest, and they become invested in what they're doing there. And then if they do not suddenly conform, and you as the town are trying to go say, gee, you can't do that, they dig their heels in, and then they'll spend any amount of money to defend their position, which is understandable because they've
Right.
invested.
And at that point, I think it's who's got the better lawyer and who's got enough money to fight it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who spends,
Yeah.
who outspends who?
Exactly. Dave?
I agree with George, and I agree with Brenda. The issue is, are we gonna be able to abolish contract zoning? And I don't think and I agree with Brenda, we probably don't wanna do it right away. But we need to amend it, because right now, the but not limited to opens up Pandora's box for anything anybody wants to do. And the only way to fight it is for somebody to take it to court, because I personally believe that the state regulation does not allow that.
Right.
But we've put it in ours anyway, and we're not allowed to make it more lenient than the states. So either we fix it or somebody ends up going to court.
Let me ask the question a different way. Is there anybody in this room that thinks section F number 3 really needs to be in there?
Wait, no,
For some reason?
yes, it does, except for the but not limited to.
Right. But what part needs to stay?
Everything except but not limited to.
Right. It's consistent with the existing uses and permitted. Now, the only thing that I questioned, Dave, was the existing uses and permitted uses within any.
Correct,
zoning
that's
district.
exactly what the purpose of contract zoning is to allow somebody to do something in one district that's not allowed to be done in that district, but it's allowed in another district. That's
It's
what
consistent.
contract zoning is. That's pretty much the definition of contract zoning, is it not?
Correct.
Okay, any other, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I think I read that a different way, before. Joe?
I would suggest the language that the planning board would suggest before in terms of modifying section F. The first section there is for land with an unusual nature or location. I think that was misstated. The land is unusual. The location's unusual. I think what was meant was the purpose. So the suggestion was to delete that altogether from one.
To delete what? Altogether?
The item.
Number one.
Is for land with an unusual
Page
nature
4.
or purpose.
Yes.
You could argue that, every land's the same. You gotta be kidding me. Or, you have to conjure up some sort of unique feature here to qualify.
Right, it's very vague.
So, again, we suggested deleting that, go right to consistent with the comprehensive plan. And number 2, deleting the but not limited to. 3, that conditions proposed are sufficient to meet the intent of the section, and addressing something that George was mentioning, something that was suggested by a townsperson at a public hearing on this, provides reasonable expectations of an overall benefit to the town as a whole. It doesn't have to be financial, but something
Yeah.
good.
That's, I think that's what we want.
Yeah, and I guess that's, where's the benefit here?
Right. Let me ask you a question. If you wrote it up the way you just said, okay, struck out what you just mentioned,
It's already written up.
right? If you did that, would that address, say, for example, like I said, Funky Bow is a good neighbor, and it's a great place to go to, in my opinion. But what if 3 other neighbors within a 2-mile stretch of 35 going up want to do the exact same thing? Okay, and one of them happens to be 5 doors up from Funky Bow because he's got the land and whatnot, and he approaches. Can you deny that person the ability to run that? Because, well, Funky was already there. There's no, I don't think there's any provision that says, see, and that's my point is.
That's another clarification that's not there.
Yeah,
Well-
I don't think there's any way to put that in.
Duplication of,
But that's my point is, so far, we've been, I'd say, fortunate that you don't have 5 people within a short range that want to do the exact same thing to the exact same scale. Because if you did, then now you got a neighborhood that's going to be probably very upset because there's going to be a lot of activity and traffic and whatnot.
Well, that takes
so
care of the last one that he
That's-
said.
that's
It's gotta be a
It's not
benefit.
a benefit to the town.
Right.
But the saturation of that type of
Right.
business in a concentrated area would be a detriment.
Right. So as long as, obviously, somebody might look at that situation, certainly Brenda might be able to look at that situation and say, I see a whole lot of trouble coming if we allow this. That's just, so as long as there's wording in there that can address to say, we don't want to approve this because we've already got 2 businesses within 2 miles that do the exact same thing. And, I live a mile and a half from Funky Bow and I can hear the music, it doesn't bother me. But, I don't live next door, but again, I don't think anybody's beating your door down saying, I live right next door and it's too loud for me, we gotta do something. So I think we've been fortunate. Dave?
Yeah, to address that one, the issue with the land being unusual, I think that's an important one because, for instance, one of the major reasons that we said that Funky Bow was an unusual nature is because he was in a residential zone where it's 3-acre lots, and he had, I don't know how many acres back there. He was way back off the road. He was not, and to me, okay, now, if he had been on a 3-acre lot and tried to get the same thing done,
Probably not.
I don't think we would have gave it to him. I think the unusual nature is an important factor in there. And I think that was taken right out of some other ordinance.
I couldn't find that unusual nature wording in the state business.
Yeah.
And the only problem I think some of the planning board members had with it, it's just that it can be subjective. And
A lot can be subjective.
Well, on the planning board, you don't want subjective as much. And shoreline, we have a couple of areas where it might be subjective, but I would certainly prefer to have the ordinance be clear enough that you can just follow the doggone ordinance and follow the same for everybody. Ask the applicant to provide all the necessary information and go that route and not have to get into a situation saying, well, geez, I mean, and sometimes that you get in trouble that way, because then if people will say, well, you approved this for this person, how come you're not approving it for this thing? And
That
you say,
would be the perfect way to do it. But I don't think with contract zoning, you'll ever manage to do that.
well, contract zoning is really a big exception.
And that's why I think we should, I don't think we should have it at all. And I agree with George and I agree with Brenda, but I also kind of agree with Brenda a little bit that maybe we're not going to be able to get rid of it right away.
Well, I think that's the key term is
We
right
don't-
away.
We don't want to propose something because we're afraid it won't get voted.
I don't know if it'll pass this board.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I
Do you
mean,
think there are that many people that are?
You mean to
just
modify
guessing.
the wording?
to
No,
eliminate
no,
contract
delete it
zoning?
altogether.
Yeah, and like I said, I think,
Okay.
and I would agree with that, because I don't think it should go away completely. until
Because
have
we had
something-
the same discussion at the last meeting, by the
Yeah,
way.
no, I heard it, I've never seen that.
Exactly the same discussion.
Yep. But again, I think contract zoning is there to meet a certain need, and I think that need's important, even though there's some problems with it. But I guess what I'm trying to cut to the chase on is, I think the problems that we're talking about, I think we all agree, probably, I'm gonna assume we all agree, have enough of an effect that it's causing problems. And maybe, Brenda, just for the record, I guess, can you restate, like, from a code enforcement officer's perspective, what's the headache or the heartache that contract zoning brings to your table?
And I haven't experienced anything yet. Been year to year, there's been no contract zoning. I just, from a code enforcement perspective, I like things black and white. I don't like gray. I don't want to be in a position to have to have that kind of effect on what someone's doing.
Right.
I don't think the planning board likes being in that position. We
Right.
like to know what we're supposed to do.
Right.
And because I think, looking back, it could be political, it could be subjective. I think it has more flaws than it does benefits. But I think at this point, it's the only thing the planning board has to help them out of sometimes what can be sticky situations.
Right. Yep, I agree. So it sounds to me like, Dave, did you have anything to bring up about it, or?
No, I just, we have to take out the subjectiveness,
I think so. I mean, it sounds to me like there's some things on the table that I think, Peggy's not here to state, and neither Steve or Buzzy, but I think I'm gonna take a gander that we all agree that there's some vagueness to it that can be addressed and keep it intact for now. I think it's gonna get replaced down the road with something much better. And at that point, you can say, well, we don't need contract zoning because we got, adequate land use tables now that are gonna deal with that.
So Mike, what if we step back at this point and I think, and I don't know, the two planning board members might not agree with me, but I think it would be a very good investment of this board's time to maybe start on the land use table and start identifying where the problems and what they can, and how it can be fixed, and keep it like the black and white enough to make me happy, but gray enough to help them get projects through that are deserving of getting through.
Totally agree.
We've got to find that balance, and I think maybe before you spend any time, any more time on the contract zoning, I think if you got your feet into the land use table, I don't think it's gonna be that hard. I mean, we got laundry lists in every zoning ordinance in the area, and if I pulled off a few and we looked at those, I mean, I was even asked one time what zone you can have gravel pits in. There's nothing in the ordinance that says what zone gravel pits can be in. There's nothing, not mineral extraction, nothing. And earth moving, people think earth moving is gravel pit. It is not. That's moving material around a lot without removing it from the lot. So I can't find anything there. I shouldn't say there's nothing in there. I don't know everything.
No, I don't think there is.
But, I mean, it's things like that, that I think when you start looking at other charts and see where the holes are and start plugging them in, I think it will develop very quickly.
So I agree with that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, maybe I'll say it this way. I think at an absolute minimum, and only, we should propose a vote for the next meeting, we have a quorum, that removes but not limited to, out of number 3. I think there was a couple other suggestions, we can write it down. And just that, like, remove the vagueness out of what's there today and stop. Because there's nothing else that we can discuss that's gonna be quick and easy to understand, just leave it as it is. That takes the biggest sting out of the problem as we or I think all of us perceive it, and then just leave it. And then 100% agree, focus on land use because we all know that we need to for a bunch of different reasons, notwithstanding contracts. Does that make sense?
And I think once you get into the meat of the land use chart, I think it will develop quickly.
Right.
And I think at that point, you will know, maybe we still need the contract zoning for another period of time. Or heck, we've done such a good job on the land use chart, that should never come up again.
Right.
And I think that's possible.
Right, so let's do this. We've got 4 items under section F. Can we just take a crack at writing it down so we can propose? It's a get a written,
This is deja vu all over again.
where is it?
Yeah, this is exactly what we talked about last week.
Yeah, no, I sent
last
it
meeting.
out, we went to the planning board 3 times with wording to change the contract zoning to eliminate what we considered ambiguity, and it didn't get on the ballot. So the wording we've already done this. I mean,
It didn't get on the ballot because you ran out of time?
no, because the select board didn't want it to go on the ballot. And that-
It was still too subjective.
Okay,
Anyway, it was a disagreement, but in any case, the planning board already went through this process and provided the wording, and I sent an email out after a couple of meetings ago that gave that wording. And the only thing I think I pointed out was that the words, the famous but not limited to words are also in the text somewhere.
Yeah, that needs to
as
be
well
taken
as-
out too.
Fourth sentence.
Yeah, and they're in the sentence, so I mean, we've already done,
Yeah.
you're wasting, my opinion,
I mean,
you're wasting your time to go through and talk about changing it. You've got some wording.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to go through and say that wording isn't, it doesn't help or isn't good enough. Maybe it isn't, but, you know, we already did this once. I say we, I mean, the planning board did.
right, so, hear me out.
Sure. I mean,
You got nothing to lose at this point by just putting the wording that you proposed at the select board again. They can reject it again at this point.
no. Read the charter. The charter gives a process for going. The process that we used previously was the planning board recommended. Now the charter doesn't say that. Under 3.15.1 or whatever the heck it is in the charter now, it says that you gotta go through and get 75 signatures, go through the whole process, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but it isn't as simple and, you know, good and bad. Not want to talk about that, but I'm saying now there's a process for putting forth amendments, and that's the way it's gotta go. You can't just, planning board can't just say to the select board, hey,
No, you misunderstood me.
oh, I'm sorry.
I get all of that. What I'm saying is, you put it in, we're gonna have a clump of changes that we're gonna put forth through the process,
Right,
which
okay.
includes getting your 75 signatures, goes before the select board,
Gotcha.
all that stuff. All I'm saying is, you throw that back into the proposed changes that we're gonna put. And there's gonna be a select board review before we actually go to the town, public hearing anyways. So even if they liked everything but that wording still, we can still take that out and just leave what was approved, and that goes through the rest of the process and hopefully gets changed per the process. So I understand it needs to go through the process. I'm saying, rather than give up and say, well, they rejected it once, they're gonna reject
Oh,
it
I'm
again,
not
we don't
saying
know
give
that.
up.
I got the impression that the select board didn't reject it because they didn't agree with it. They felt like it's supposed to go through the right process, I believe.
Well, I think you just said, Dave, that
It was still too subjective.
Okay.
So, and what I'm just all I'm looking for is not to get into the weeds and change everything about contract zoning. I'm just looking to say, is there anything that we can put in the proposed group of changes that we're gonna put through the process that deals with this, that takes that vagueness out of there, that makes it acceptable, or what we feel is acceptable, and that the select board will find acceptable. If that exists, and it looks like we're only talking, I mean, you tell me, because I think you were in the select board when you were going through this. Is it just that section F, or were there other sections that
No, there was a couple of things in there that, anything that gives the decision to somebody else to make. There should be something, there should be an I you have to dot and a T you have to cross. And once you do that, then nobody should say anything about it. You know, it's in.
Well, it's black and white.
It's black and white,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep, okay.
And I think we can get there. I think we can get
Contract
there.
zoning, you're never gonna get there. I will be willing to bet you'll never, ever write a contract zoning clause that'll have no subjectivity in it.
No, I don't think subjectivity, I think what you're referring to is who can make the
Correct.
decision.
Yes.
Not like limit, the use cases of it per se.
Correct.
It was who gets to decide whether or not they can do it or not. Is that what the subjectivity you're
Yes.
talking about? Okay.
Who's gonna, that's probably the clearest part of the whole ordinance is that the planning board gets to recommend it to the select board and they get to make the decision. How do you make it less subjective than that?
I think, I'm gonna make an attempt to answer him by looking at you. If it's laid out in black and white, the planning board ought to be able to get it and say, yes, it meets all of the criteria, we approve, or no, there's one thing that's listed in black and white that it doesn't meet, done. We can't approve it, and therefore, if the planning board doesn't approve it, the select board's not gonna approve it. And
Just like their criteria.
Right, and then on the flip side of that, if everything that's in the contract zone, or part of the ordinance is met, then the planning board should be able to approve it, and you're just a rubber stamp on top of that. So in other words, the planning board's doing the hard work of making sure that it meets all the criteria, and you're just second set of eyes, or I should say the select board's looking at it as a second set of eyes saying, yes, we certainly agree with the planning board.
I mean, more than the second set of eyes, ultimately the signer, because the way it reads here is that the
Yeah,
board of selectmen.
Yeah, the board of selectmen makes
But I
those.
would think that they're making a decision on the legality or the liability versus the business or structure that the planning board deals with.
So I think they would consider that too.
Planning board considers all of that.
Anyways.
The
Yeah,
problem
but-
is writing a regulation that will meet the criteria of, if you meet each one exactly right, then you get it. Contract zoning, by its very nature, can't be done that way. I'd like to see it. If somebody has one, it would be really good to look at.
Yeah, if you're gonna put together a motion, Mike, eventually, the next time we have a quorum.
Yeah.
The not limited to is in the authorization, section B as well.
Yeah.
We identified that, so those are the two,
If we did nothing but take that out of there, we would be way ahead.
yeah.
And I think, like I
Yeah.
said, at a minimum, and perhaps updated land use tables and whatnot might actually achieve what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, and that might help achieve that. And so in other words, it's another way of saying what we have in the language of contract zoning in the current ordinances, the current ordinance has some flaws because it adds to subjectivity. And that's not gonna change until we have something to replace it that's black and white. But we also have some other sections that make it even more vague. Like there's a degree of vagueness that something adds, and I think what we're saying is, well, these add a lot of vagueness to it that can be eliminated anyways. The ultimate solution though is gonna be, and I think that's the way it ought to go to the select board, is to say, what we're proposing isn't the perfect answer to this. It's just a temporary small Band-Aid going over a little bit larger wound. And when we update our land use tables and probably do a few other things, that's gonna clean it up completely, and then we probably can vote to eliminate contract zoning. Once we feel confident that we've addressed that, and then take away contract zoning altogether, because what we have left over is better. That's what I'm saying. Go.
What I would suggest is, when next time you get together for a vote on contract zoning, delete B but not limited to section B, as George identified. In section F, leave in, is for land with an unusual nature or location.
Mhm.
Leave that as is. Leave the next 1, 2, 3, delete from 3, but not limited to from there.
Mhm.
that the conditions proposed are sufficient to meet the intent of the section, and then add, what we suggested before, provides reasonable expectations of an overall benefit to the town as a whole.
Is that a number 5 or added to
That would
4?
be, add that as a 5.
Provides reasonable,
Expectations of an overall benefit to the town as a whole.
I'm sorry, to the town as a benefit.
Let's see. As
Oh, an overall benefit to the town as a whole.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. I think that makes sense. You know, and put that in the group of stuff that we're gonna propose, you know, with an asterisk saying, we realize this isn't the end-all solution to contract zoning. It's gonna make it easier for now until we have a chance to do other required work to land use tables, which will more directly address this, and then we can have a future discussion of whether we need contract zoning or not, but this is a minimum. That might be a better sell. So, okay, enough on that. What's next?
Land use,
Joe's got a question.
Oh, sorry.
Finish your thought on the hot topic items that you think. That's where you were going.
Yes,
I'm
so,
gonna let Joe
oh yeah,
interject first.
Well, one hot topic item would be conformance with LD 2003. I think a lot of progress was made on the accessory dwelling units at the last meeting.
Right.
Until I brought up the topic of short-term rentals.
Sorry.
the topic of what?
Short-term rentals.
Reynolds, yeah, that didn't go over big.
It
I mean,
gendered a lot of discussion.
It's
But,
really not a subject.
I quite agree with Don, with his comment at the last meeting. Separate. Short-term rentals, separate issue altogether. I think what you did, constructed last meeting on accessory dwelling units, I think that's a hot ticket item that can be a separate standalone suggestion.
yeah,
As it
and I
applies to
agree, and I think, and I agree 100% with that. Plus, if we get that right, we can just stuff that into shoreline zoning. Same wording.
But the land use table, that's the priority.
yes. What else?
I think, I don't know if you can work on it consecutively, but what really blends in very closely with that is the definitions. So there again, I've also pulled off some definitions from other towns that I thought, and I don't mean we need to copy other towns, Lyme's very different from other towns, but I think it would be a trigger to start conversations on some of these things. And some of the definitions right now don't match. Some of the definitions in the zoning ordinance don't match the definitions in the shoreline ordinance. So we have to look across these things. So the land use table, even if it's perfect, is still going to be very faulty if the definitions don't work. So I think maybe we could keep those kind of alongside of each other, I mean, concentrate on one, but keep an eye on the other.
And move the I think we also said move the definitions to the front, not the back. Minor,
I
but
agree.
Yeah. put them up front so people see them first.
The definitions?
Yeah. Because right now they're at the end, right?
Yeah.
And usually legislation shows them up front.
Yes.
I think it's more important that they're consistent. I don't think it.
Well,
That's where they are.
that's just it's a minor formatting thing. In other words, we just
Yeah.
move them to the front of,
Yeah,
that's,
I know, whatever.
oh, here, no, there, it's just, why not?
One thing matters is the way a definition is stated can very definitely dictate how a process is going to work. If the definition is weak and I don't have anything to hold on to it.
So,
The definitions are very,
yeah, I 100% agree with that. I'm gonna throw this on the table as well. I can fully see where coming up with the right definition is gonna be 5 meetings on its own. And in order to avoid that, it might be handy if we, did a little bit of work to say, well, what have other towns said about this? And, get a handful of them to look at and say, it seems to me that everybody kind of defines it this way, and then pick that, and then see, does anybody have a problem with this definition and save time? Because we could beat that one to death, and we'd be arguing over whether we should dot the I or circle it, so.
Makes a difference.
Yeah, it does, I'm saying, but, rather than reinvent the wheel, we can look at it and say, well, generally, everybody else seems to define it this way, probably for good reason, type of thing, where we can save time, maybe that's the right way to say it.
I'll get those together and get those out earlier than later, so that you have time to.
So you're gonna give us, here's Brenda's action item so far. You're gonna get us examples of land use tables that I can post that we can start looking at
Yeah.
and chew on, and you're gonna give us some definitions that, are you gonna give us here's a complete list, or of the current zoning ordinance, or one that only you think need to be tweaked?
I just pulled off some that I thought were really definitive, in reading down through it. A couple of towns that I work with, and I know how they work. So that's what I had. I mean, certainly the definitions and the land use report are going to be a resource for us, but I think some of those other towns, and then what I would offer is that you can share them, but I would also make some copies here, because some of them are pretty lengthy. And if people would rather look at paper copy, it's too bad that they have to copy those off, so I could have some in the office if you wanted to pick up a packet.
Sure, that'd be
That
handy.
would work, maybe have it by Monday or Tuesday.
Okay,
Can't you just, how many pages is it?
Some of them are 5, 6, 7 pages, and then the definitions that correspond, the definitions are a lot of pages.
Well, yeah, that'd be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I
you can't
think some
scan them,
members
you just
would rather
can't
look
just
at
scan them
screen.
and send them to everybody?
We can.
I think that would be the easiest, if you just
Yeah,
scan them one time and
I
send them
was
out.
gonna send it to Mike so he can send it to you.
Yeah, if you send, scan it to him and he can send it out.
Right, but some people would rather look at a sheet of paper than at the screen. I know I would, because I like to make notes and I like to highlight and I like to cross out. So,
and by the way, as a point of formatting and process, because you kind of went there, but it's okay too, if you scanned them in and sent them to the Lyman, as an attachment to the Lyman ORC at googlegroups.com, I'll get it, and then I can post it to Google Docs, but everybody else gets a copy at the same time,
that's what I thought.
which for next week will be really handy, because I'll be in Florida all next week, so I won't be here.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm bringing with me is a damn laptop, so.
Really?
If I do, my wife will kill me. So I have a vested interest in staying alive. So, yeah, but I mean, if you send it to the entire group, when I get it, I'll be able to post it when I get it, but everybody else gets a copy anyways. And that's perfectly fine.
And I'll have paper copies if someone would rather have.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just print my own that I want. I think a lot of people will too, but there are people that don't. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
As long as I only have to print one copy, I'm okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
But other people don't have printers, so you need to provide them.
I just want to make it as easy as possible, because I think there's some good information. I really do.
well, if that would have been tonight, that would have been handy, because as I was printing out stuff tonight, I ran out of paper, so I would have taken your copy. So still a good idea, if you want to do that, that'd be great.
Another good resource is to go online and pull other people's ordinances up, which,
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I've done, I think Acton, Waterboro.
Similar sized towns.
Limerick didn't have much.
So
Arundel was really good.
Because I'm like Don, I don't mind plagiarizing at all.
I think plagiarizing is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah, there you go.
No,
No, I mean, if
it's
the
seriously,
town's got something good, use it, because,
Right.
yeah, no,
I try to rewrite it.
I think that's what we're gonna have to do if we're gonna get through a lot of these changes. I mean, seriously, we got a lot to get through, and why not take the best of the best and incorporate it, save us some time. Especially if it's a similar sized town and, similar demographic and whatnot, right? So, okay, so we got land use tables, EUs, definitions. Is there any other hot topics? We already got 3, that's a lot to work on, but is there anything else? Concentrate on that, we can always add more later, but I think does that seem fair to everybody? It's enough to chew on?
I think so.
Okay.
What was your list again? So I can write it down.
Land use tables.
Yep.
ADUs, and definitions. That was ADUs relative to.
Contract zoning.
Well, contract zoning, but I think we've already kind of, you can add it
We
as a hot
haven't,
ticket item.
we haven't, because we can't do anything in a workshop. It has to be.
No, I'm saying,
I think we've beaten it into the ground to the point where we can have a vote on it when we
Yes,
have a quorum.
correct. Well,
I didn't list it as a hot ticket item because we already have something that we're gonna propose for a vote at the next meeting to put into the group of changes. It's a hot ticket item for future, the overall overhaul of it or elimination of it is a bigger issue down the road. Right? You have something to say, Joe?
Just, in going through the land use tables, you'd be going over the definitions, I think, at the same time. Okay.
Right, I think Brenda kind of said that, yeah, be going back and forth.
yeah, the thing is, like we said before, what Don had recommended was to go through the list first and then the land use table. But we can go through the land use table. Once we get that, then we can look at the list. Is that what the plan is? Because we got to make a match.
Yeah, they got,
I don't understand why we need a list when we got a table.
Well, if you read what's in the list, there's a lot of words in the list, and the land use table just says a couple of words.
Yeah.
So,
We could always bring that over to the land use table. It's just the land use table is by category and it's alphabetized. The list is just there.
So what you're saying is basically combine the two so that it's all in the land use table and have it all be one. That probably makes a lot of sense.
there's a lot of words. We need to read it, I guess, and take a look at it.
Check it out.
I think
better look at it
we
first.
should look and see if it's feasible.
Do other towns essentially do that, where they
You know,
combine?
I haven't looked that distinctly, but I can.
Okay, might be worth.
I personally don't look at the list a lot because I feel like the land use table is kind of the Bible.
But you understand what it all means. Some people may not know what every one of those things mean. Now, maybe we could solve it with a really long definition section that would cover the land use too.
One example where there's a significant reason to have it, the list is if you look at farming on page 12, okay, it gives a whole bunch of information on farming. Now, maybe that should be put someplace else, whereas in the land use table, it just says farming, yes, yes, yes.
So would someone know if they look at farming, would they know to look at the list?
Yeah.
I don't know, I would hope so.
They may not, but the planning board knows.
Somebody should.
That's the only one that I noticed that has more than just
Yeah.
description of the use. Now, why 1 through 10 is there under farming, where it's defined as well in the definitions.
Yeah.
I'm uncertain.
Maybe we could
Yeah,
just,
maybe that could be
define
eliminated. I
Just
don't know.
look, and that's the only anomaly that I came across.
so that might be the goal, to eliminate the
Line
list.
2 to 5, 4. Everything else is just a statement of the use, which is already on the land use table.
I think making the ordinance as concise as possible is really a good effort. Because when you have things, the same thing stated in different ways in different places, that's where you get.
Right, I would agree with that.
I'm trying to understand farming 1 versus farming 2. Can anybody explain that?
I don't know.
Agricultural 1 or 2?
You'd have to ask a farmer.
Yeah, well, I am a farmer. I'm trying to
Which
understand.
are you? Are you a 1 or a 2?
Either one, I'm just, what is agriculture 1?
What exactly are you growing over there?
No, I don't even know. I honestly don't know that, or where would I find the difference here?
Page
What does the
67,
definition say?
page 67.
Gotta go to definitions.
You know, when in doubt, go to definitions.
They get this agriculture 1 and 2.
Mhm.
Does it get spelled out there?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well, I'm not saying it's perfect, but there's something there.
I think there's a redundancy with farming as well.
Yeah, is farming agriculture and vice versa, or?
No, they're different.
Yeah, see, that's,
I mean, they are different activities
yeah.
in a sense. Anyway, we're getting.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
All right,
Recommend it.
so we have a proposal to combine the list into the land use tables. You're gonna look and see if there are other towns that have done that in some capacity, and whether or not that's something that we should do, or do we have a better argument to keep them separate? But I do agree with you that when you start
be consistent.
referencing one versus the other, that you gotta be careful to make sure you're
It's
consistent.
just, if someone calls and they're proposing to buy property in town and they intend to do a specific specific activity. As it is now, I have to look in every list to see if it's in any of those lists. Whereas if it's on the land use table, you can look right straight across. You don't wanna buy something in residential, it's not allowed in residential. Whereas the list, which is,
Well, the intent of the list is it will have everything in it, and it doesn't because it's not correct.
that's why we need to
Yeah.
let them up.
Yes, it needs to be,
So that raises the chicken or egg, which is.
but that, yeah, that's what we're talking about. Should we?
Is
And
the-
it really
is the
doesn't matter, I
chart-
don't think.
Does the chart rule the list, or does the list rule the chart?
No, they're supposed to be the same.
Well, they're just supposed to be the same.
In my practice, if there's a discrepancy, I would lean on the land use chart.
So we could start by looking at the chart and then
I
correcting.
think so.
Yeah, and that's what the suggestion is. Let's look at the chart, fix the chart, and then look at the list, and maybe get rid of the list.
If there's several categories, like in farming, then let's do farming, then da-da-da-da-da, look right across the chart. So if there's a couple of things that has different categories, that needs to be identified.
I agree.
What would you like to start on next?
Go through the chart.
Yeah,
Might as well.
I mean, one of the questions, it specifically says in the list that farming does not include medical marijuana growing.
Yeah, the state doesn't include it in the farm
But
either.
that's not clarified on the list here. It should have somewhere medical marijuana or
Yeah, it does.
marijuana farming.
I think you'll find the reason is that it was never addressed since the medical marijuana thing started.
George, on page 10 of the ordinance, medical marijuana, home production and production facilities are both listed in the table.
Oh, there it is, yeah,
Yes,
okay.
so
So, all right,
just considered separate from farming or agriculture.
so home production is not,
Home production is yes, 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 and the other production facility is site review.
And they're all defined on page 73.
so is a medical production facility, medical marijuana production facility considered farming of medical marijuana?
No.
No. The state doesn't
say no.
group marijuana as a farm product. Why, I don't know, but that's what they do.
I mean, actually, I think Brenda has a good point, but really to use the ordinance properly, you have to look,
At all three?
you have to look at the list, you gotta, the table, you gotta look at the list, and then you also should go and look at the definition, assuming there's a good definition. Now, some definitions are not very good, but some are quite definitive. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a better way, maybe there's a better way to organize it, but there's a lot of material, and I don't, what you don't wanna do probably is lose that material if it's good material, but maybe there's a better way of organizing it. But right now, the definition can give you a lot of words, and that has the force of the ordinance as well as everything else. So I just want to be careful we don't throw everything out and say, hey, blah, 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 but because there is some good information, just a matter of organization. I mean, why is contract zoning where it is, for example? It's in the front. I mean, there's things we put in that.
Because that's where it ended up.
Yeah, that's where it ended up, and you remember the thing on animal units, how detailed that got?
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
And that was in response to a problem. That's usually what happens. Somebody comes in with a problem and you try to change the ordinance to address that. And, not for that individual, but to prevent that problem in the future. And you put it in the ordinance and it may not be in the most logical place. Is the point I would make. But gotta be a better way. I don't know what the better way is. Because every town has its own ordinance, which, I just want to make let me just one other thing. I went to one of those workshops with a Maine municipal, and we have 16 standards for site plan review. And I've always wondered where those 16 standards come from, because I cannot find them in the state ordinance. And I asked that question, I could not get an answer at this seminar, because I don't know if every town has 16 standards or not. I don't know, maybe they got, in fact, they don't, I don't think. I looked at some other towns, but we use those things all the time. And
There was no answer. There's no difference.
I couldn't get it, I'd rather have it come out of some state statute, but it doesn't, it seems like it leaves it up to each town. Now, some people like that, because each town can do its own thing. From an efficiency point of view, that's a problem for me.
Well, that's important.
It's important, but, you know, what's.
It's a good process though. From my experience with you guys, I think it's a good
What do you mean,
process.
the planning board?
The 16
The
steps.
16,
Oh, 16,
yeah.
Well, some of them are.
I think it takes a lot of the subjectivity out.
Yeah.
Just some of them are a little hard to.
Yeah, they are.
Some are, some are non-applicable.
Right.
you know, But the question's there.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad, I just thought there would be a basis for them somewhere. And I couldn't, I'd just like to see a basis if there's,
Sure.
But-
Well,
I'm getting too old for this stuff. I like to see what tells me I gotta do this. I gotta pay my taxes, but that's another story, I won't go into that.
So are we still on charts?
Yeah, I'm off. I'm getting off.
back to the chart. I don't know, are we just sort of shooting around here, or are we gonna look at? I mean, one of the things I dug out earlier, actually while waiting to come in, was page 13, 5.3. The chart and the listed site plan review items don't agree on B, C, E, and F. And K is permitted, but it says you have to have a site review according to 5.3. So those 5 items don't jive with the chart.
Which ones were those, George? Would you read again, please?
5.3.
Yeah, I got that.
B,
D, Bravo.
yep. C is in Charlie.
Yeah.
E is in effort. F is in fail.
Yeah.
K is in crazy.
What's the other one?
K.
Yeah, need more?
Okay, sounds good.
That one is permitted on the chart but not requiring a site plan review according to 5.3.
No, I don't think you're right on that one.
Wait a minute.
No, it says site review on page 10 for medical marijuana production facility.
Does? Did
Yeah, it
I
does.
just misread that?
I think you were looking at medical marijuana home production, not medical marijuana production
Okay.
facility.
Now then I'm wrong on that one. I need my eraser.
That's the one.
Go ahead, I think it's got
All right.
it.
We'll take that out. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, like especially on that one where it's just listed, there's really no reason to have a table and a list.
Anyway.
So with the exception of K, 'cause I think that one does,
Yeah, we'll take K out because I
you got-
misread that.
Bravo, Charlie, Echo, Foxtrot, all you say do not line up with the chart.
Under residential,
The residential.
Well, wait a minute now.
assisted living, site plan review, all the way across.
What about bed and breakfast in one? That's,
That's okay. A is fine.
Okay, which one?
B,
is it?
bed
B,
and
okay, bed
breakfast.
and breakfast one. Bed and breakfast one, site plan review, all the way across.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, where was it? Oh, I was looking at.
You're looking at,
Inns too.
yeah, that's bed and breakfast too, it's not allowed
All right.
in residential,
Okay, so that one's okay then, I guess.
yeah. The other one, the next one is which?
This is what happens when you sit.
Boat RV sales,
Sit in
boat
your,
RV sales.
sit in your truck.
No, it's not allowed, boat RV sales. Facility
So that
one,
one's correct.
facility one, yeah, you're right, see, it
Yeah.
says no there.
Yeah. So,
And it's allowed here.
so strike B out, because I got that one wrong. What happens when you try to do this in your truck?
Must have been a glare up here.
At least you did it.
Yeah, and then E, business
Business
office.
office.
No,
Business office, no.
site review.
Right.
F,
And campgrounds. No.
campground.
No.
Yeah, see,
No.
that's wrong too. So you're right.
So those three, C, E, and F.
Are wrong, yeah.
That's what happens when you have things in two different places.
Yeah, and that's, somebody needs to go through and check all of that. And like I say, if we devote our effort on the table, then we can go check it against the other. If we make sure the table's right, then,
Yeah.
So
then we can
as,
fix the other one.
as it's written, we're just gonna write down proposed changes on section 5.3, striking C, E, and F, and then read,
Well, we might decide to get rid of that altogether,
right. but
because
as
all it
it's-
is a list. Why do we need a list in two places?
Right.
Now, the farm one's different. It has a whole bunch of words on it. So we'd have to address that somewhere else. So I agree, Brenda, that we should fix that, because there's no reason to have.
So
it
is
in two
there,
places.
is there a recommendation to strike 5.3 altogether then?
No, I think the recommendation is, let's go through the land use table first.
Yeah.
Forget about the other,
So in other words,
and then then figure out what to do after that.
ignore all.
Because believe me, it's gonna take a while to get through that.
So we're saying, ignore George if he brings up another suggestion.
No, I think the reason one of the reasons
I'm just
that
kidding.
he's converted me by bringing up what he said.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I agree.
I'll say it another way. We're jumping the gun a little bit. We gotta go back and just start reviewing.
Well,
it. Yeah,
we can't do anything tonight anyway.
Can't do anything with muzzle.
I know.
To make matters even more complicated, maybe you could take some time, the notes at the end of the land use table. I'm not sure how accurate they are, on just reading the notes, but we've got to spend some time on that. And the first thing I would do is get it into a font that you can read.
Are you talking about, like on page 11, or are you talking about,
At the very end of the land use chart, there's usually notes. I'm not usually, there are notes that.
the ones that are in italics? Like
Yeah,
it
they're-
said, this says here amended on 11/6/06
Page
to
11,
allow
yeah.
dwelling, single family and dwelling, two families in the commercial residential zone along with dwelling.
Okay, disregard.
Disregard?
Well, that might have been shoreline.
Oh,
I know there's one, it's got such a tiny font.
Oh, shoreline is what you're talking about. That thing is horrible.
Okay, disregard.
Okay.
We'll get there.
scratch from
Yeah,
the
we'll get there next
Yeah,
year.
you have to have a magnifying glass to read
It's
shoreline.
crazy, isn't it? And I think that they're not real accurate.
Okay.
It's another year.
Joe, yes.
Well, I walked through the land use table before. If it's okay with y'all, I can kind of walk through what I noticed in terms of in some cases where there's no definition, or some seeming duplication. Make note of those, and then when we go back in the full meeting, maybe walk through it once more.
Please do.
Okay. So on page 9, agriculture 1 and 2, A-OK. I do move next, artisanal food and assisted living. That's an incorrect alphabetical order.
Right.
Just have to flip the minor thing there. But for assisted living and nursing homes, I believe we've got separate definitions for those.
For assisted living and nursing home?
Oh, you mean in the definition section?
Yeah, in the definition section here, assisted living, elderly congregate housing.
Yeah.
And
But just because we have two different definitions, does that mean we can't combine them on the same line?
not necessarily, it's just
Yeah.
an observation.
Just for the purposes of saving space?
Separate definitions there.
Yeah. If they require the same thing.
So, automobile recycling, what was the note there? automobile graveyard, automobile recycling business are separately defined, but automobile recycling or graveyard is combined, just FYI.
Okay, do you think that the way it's set up for, is there like nothing in, no in a residential site review for both of those, or we want to change it?
Well, I think I'm just remarking.
Yeah, oh, okay,
just
okay.
The categories right now. And I don't believe we have automobile sales and service. And I think we only have auto service station in the definitions. Nothing about sales
Yeah,
that I can see.
that's true.
Let's see. Boat and RV sales and service. So C commercial facility 1, but I don't believe we have, no, we don't have a distinct boat and RV sales and service definition.
Sure, yeah.
Next one, business contractor 1 and 2. We just have a definition, I believe, for business contractor, period. We don't have a distinction between 1 and 2 that I can see.
Which one was that again?
Let's see, business contractor 1, business contractor 2. When I go back to definitions, I just see business contractor.
Yeah. Jeez.
So we don't have the definition of, they're not distinguished
No, not that I can see.
in definitions.
Yeah, and they have different requirements, so they should be defined.
Again, didn't pick you in here, but campgrounds in the definitions, the full listing there is campgrounds, tents, and recreational vehicle parks. Not just campgrounds.
See, that should.
And again, just to put you in here, church, parish, house, rectory, convents. In definitions, we just have church. And under commercial facilities 1 and 2, same thing with business contractor. I'm looking at page 70, and I see commercial and industrial facilities. I don't see a distinction between 1 and 2 there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no 1 and 2 here, yeah.
Well, does that mean that you can have 1 on a site, and if it's 2 on a site, it's not allowed in a specific? That's how I took that to mean.
Yeah, I think there's the intent of, taking a look at the definition on page 70. It seems like there's intent of pulling in a 1 and a 2 there, that just didn't happen. Because the first paragraph, facility having less than 25,000 feet, and then the second paragraph, facility having more than 25,000 feet.
So that must be 1 and 2,
Just
maybe.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So that needs to be, if we just put a 1 and 2 there, would that make it?
I think should. That's what I had on page 9.
That's probably.
On page 10, I was kind of curious about commercial timber harvesting.
Yeah.
Then you take a look at page 11, you've got timber harvesting, no permit required by state.
And commercial timber harvesting, it's the same thing.
That's the same thing? Okay, there you go.
You have to have, it goes through the state.
So,
Used to, the town used to be.
And,
so what we're implying here is it's allowed, but you gotta go to the state.
yeah, what,
That's
it
why it says yes, yes, yes.
seems like it's a duplication.
I don't even know that we should say it's allowed, it's state purview, I think.
Well, is this from the perspective of the town, like the town would not have a problem with it because it has to go through the state? Or are you saying the fact that you're saying yes means I'm allowed to, even though you got a notation in this, says permit required by the
What the
state?
state said when they came out with option 1 or option 2. Option 1 is that the town enforced their own timber harvesting efforts. And if a problem came up, don't even think of calling the state. They wouldn't even take the call. They look at the chart, find out if you're a 1 or a 2. If you're a 1, don't call. Number 2 is if you allow the, am I right, Joe? If you allow the state to do the enforcing, 100%, they
Yeah.
take care of everything. So what they said is, you can't be either or, even a little bit. So they didn't even want that in the ordinance, because it kind of suggests that the town still has some overview.
But you gotta remember, if it's not in the ordinance, you can't do it.
So in other words, if you
If
take it
it's
out.
not in the if it's not here, you can't do it.
Then it needs a no. That's it.
Well, I mean, I think that's why it says yes, 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 because it's allowed, but you gotta go to the state. There might need to be an asterisk there, but later on, it does say that. But yeah, if we just scratch that out, no commercial timber
Why don't
is
you
allowed
just-
in mine.
Why don't you just, can you, just throwing this out there, instead of saying yes, 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 can you say see notes below for each one of those?
You know, honestly,
And add a note?
I think that is such, that category, I would like you to make it an action item for me to contact the state how they want it. It's that serious, it really is.
I mean, dumb question, but could we look at some other towns and see what they've got in there? I mean, maybe they've got the answer already.
I've got one right here that I know the state wrote, because I work there. So it's probably under commercial and it doesn't.
Yeah, but see, that's where the but not limited to comes in. If it's not on this list, it's not limited to this list.
But it says it right there. It is yes, yes, yes. But
Yeah.
right underneath, it says.
It's allowed,
Permit required from State of Maine, Department of Forestry.
Okay,
That's the next line.
if you want to leave it that way.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me.
All I'm saying here is that it seems to be a redundancy to have commercial timber harvesting listed on page 10 and timber harvesting, no permit required by the state on 11.
Yeah, that's true. What, is there a difference?
What is it again, Joe?
Oh, they got,
On page 10, it says
yeah,
commercial timber
it's here
harvesting.
twice.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're right.
and then on page 11, it says timber harvesting, no permit required by
Yeah,
the
but the
state.
question is,
What's the difference?
is commercial different from timber harvesting? And if it's not, then yeah, we don't need it.
Well, and back in the definitions, you've got a separate definition for each.
Well, then, see,
Well, but timber harvesting, cutting of tree trunks, the cutting of, tree trunks that have been cut down and stripped of all branches. Timber harvesting, commercial, the cutting of and commercial dealing in tree trunks that have been cut down and stripped of all branches.
both the same. Yeah,
I guess the only distinction I'm seeing here is that you're either cutting down you're either making firewood for yourself or you're making firewood to sell.
Yeah, that's a good point,
It's
actually.
not commercial, right?
Right.
Yeah,
It's not
so-
In other words, timber harvesting is just you harvesting timber on your own land.
but I don't
for your
think
own
you need a
use.
permit for that, do you?
Do you need a permit to cut down your own trees?
I don't, well, if you're in shoreline, you do.
It's 40% of the basal points, I believe, in 10 years. So if you come to me and you say you're doing some timber harvesting for your own use, you have to go out and you have to take an inventory of every tree, what the basal measurement is. So that you need to know then the total basal measurements, and then you have to tell me which trees you're cutting and how much the basal measurement is of those. We have to figure it's at 40%. If it's over 40%, it goes to the state.
But,
But
so,
nobody-
yeah, but hold on, yes, but the state could approve it if they wanted
Oh, they
to.
always approve everything.
Right, but
Yeah, oh,
in other
yeah.
words, I think the distinction here is, even if you went through that process and you were over the basal requirement, you went to the state, got a permit, and you don't intend to sell it, you're still just timber harvesting versus, because I want to cut down a bunch of trees and I'm over 40%, I'm gonna get a permit, but I'm only using it for my own.
I think
Used to make-
there's two categories at the state level. One is the commercial, like you're saying,
Yep.
and one is over 40% of the basal measurement.
Right, but I
So if
guess,
it's under 40%, you don't need it. So if I'm cutting a few trees down to burn in my fireplace, I don't need a permit?
Every 10 years, if you're in, well, that 40%. And-
Well, yeah, but say somebody's got 50 acres of land and they're gonna take 4 trees out to cut them this
What is
year.
that, 0.1%?
Yeah, so it's less than 40.
I
Okay.
think the
That
redundancy,
that was the
though,
point, yeah.
I want to take a crack at what I think you're saying the redundancy is. Both of them say yes, 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 all the way across, except for commercial says permit required by the state, which is probably why they broke them out in the land use table that way.
And I think it says in this, and I just saw it, now I lost it again, and I think it was called Oh, I lost it. It was perfect verbiage for what you're talking about.
It seems to be personal use as opposed to.
Selling it.
commercials, yeah.
Yeah,
Clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting. So that might be managing your own lot, it might be cutting trees for development.
like the last, not last meeting, but the meeting before, I'm sorry, the training that we got for the Google Maps.
Yeah.
For the town map. Remember there was a piece of property that, which now that you're empowered to go back and look, 6 years ago,
Yeah.
there was a big patch of trees and now there's not,
Right.
there isn't a big patch of trees.
I don't understand either one of those.
Gotta love technology, right?
Cutting down tree trunks.
That's a good point, what you just brought up.
It's, so removal of vegetation for purposes other than timber harvesting. And then timber harvesting, it says, commercial timber harvesting is only through the state.
Right, because I might have a whole bunch of, I might have a big wood lot, and I just went to the Freiburg Fair and bought this wonderful chainsaw sawmill and a wood turning lathe and a whole bunch of furniture making equipment, and I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna make furniture and sell it. Because I might as well do something with this damn wood, right? That's a commercial use, because I intend to sell,
I don't know what that is.
or is that splitting hairs? Or is it, I just wanna sell the wood to a pulp mill someplace and make money?
I suggest you're getting into a whole.
Yeah, in any event, neither
I'm
one
just
of
trying to draw a
those, neither one of those
distinction.
definitions
I'm just
makes
trying
any
to-
sense.
I'm trying to draw a distinction
Because it's
between-
not cutting of tree trunks, it's cutting down trees.
So something to look at.
Because it says cutting of tree trunks that have been cut down and stripped of all the, it's like the cutting down and stripping them is the harvesting, it's not cutting the tree trunks up. So I think we need to find out, that needs to be looked at. Yeah.
Back to,
Those are not even
Yes.
they're not even useful definitions.
No,
That's
correct.
the problem.
Correct.
back on 10, just as noted before, we've got agriculture 1, agriculture 2, and farming. It just seems like some clarification is necessary there. As Don pointed out, when we get to the list, there's this 10-point definition of farming that that is to be retained and move back to definitions or something like that.
Yeah.
The only other thing I found on page 10 was mobile and modular home sales. We don't have that specified in the definitions. We have mobile home park, we have modular homes,
Oh.
nothing about sales from what I can see.
Page, I just jumped out at page 16. AA is mobile and modular home sale.
Oh, yeah, but where's the definition?
Oh, I see, there's no definition.
I don't, yeah, I'm
Oh, I got you.
just going from the land use chart to the definition section back and forth.
Oh, I get, yeah, you're, okay, I'm sorry, you're right.
And let me see, on page 11, I don't think we have a definition for recycling facility. Not seeing it.
I'm sorry, which one, Joe?
Recycling facility on
Facility.
page
Yeah, there's
11.
a definition on page 75.
I'm still in the modular homes.
Well, the definitions are.
Recycling, okay.
Recycling facility.
Recycling.
It is there.
Yeah, it's very general, but, yeah, but no, I think you're right, there ought to be a definition for every one of these.
Yeah, oh yeah, there should definitely be a
Because, I mean, this is crazy.
well, what, it is a recycling facility.
Yeah, it is, my apologies, was that,
So we did find it?
yep.
That's
it's
right,
there.
yeah.
Oh, it's not alphabetical again.
Oh, it's out of,
Research and recycling should be switched.
Oh,
Mhm.
I knew you were here for a reason, George.
I can read.
You're right, okay.
REC comes before RES.
Yeah.
right, but
that
RES, the next one is RECR, so I mean, the
RE.
recreational vehicles and da-da-da-da, the research should
Research and
be,
development is in the wrong order.
yeah, research and development's in the wrong order.
That's what I said.
It's good, you get the nitpick award today.
Well, somebody's got to do it.
And the only other thing that I found.
I don't hear so good,
page
especially out of the see it.
11 Is it says schools private, but. in
That's why I
definitions,
always sit
it's
on the
public
end.
and private.
Oh.
I do
That's
believe-
exactly why I sit on the
Double check
end,
that.
I don't hear out of my radio because
Yeah, we have,
my hearing aid doesn't work too good either.
Schools, public,
Sounds like
private.
it doesn't
Yeah,
work
I
too
hear it.
good.
You can
Hey,
hear it.
guys, hold on, trying to listen to Joe, sorry. I couldn't hear. What'd you say?
It's just that, on the chart, it just says schools, private.
Oh, yeah.
But in the definition, it says schools, public and private.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
I would say,
Yes, go ahead, Don,
I would
sorry.
suggest, there's two things for the land use table. One is there's an administrative approach, which Joe's gone through as, as far as definitions versus, there's one person who, if there was one person who was motivated, they could go through and correct all that. So then the second part would be, adding additional uses, maybe using other ordinances as a reference. So I mean, there's administrative stuff, which is fine, I think it's worthwhile, but, I think the bigger picture is, okay, we have these listed uses. We went to another ordinance somehow and found out there were 20 uses, or some number in a town of a similar size. Why don't we have those?
That's what Brenda's gonna do.
Yeah,
for
so I'm
us.
just saying, so there's like two pieces of this puzzle.
Yeah.
And it could be split up a little bit,
Well, I think what he said in the beginning was, this is like administrative cleanup type stuff
yeah,
that we can propose, get changed in the next meeting. And then the second big thing.
where I was going was that you gotta find some sucker who has got the time to do this. When I say sucker, I mean that's sort of a negative.
It's not very nice, Joe already did it for us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Don.
I was gonna suggest somebody that lives on Murphy's Way, about halfway down.
Let's all, at the next meeting, make everybody line up and
just
everybody
take
can
that.
take a step back.
Sorry, Don, keep going.
I mean, I've done this for some of the stuff on the planning board, and it takes, and the problem I have in some areas is, people want to talk about it, but then you got some guy, it's like on the charter commission and stuff like that. You have somebody that's gonna have to go down and have to, a scribe, will take all those things and put them in. And then you can go back and take a look at it, because it does take some effort. You can't really do that at a meeting. You can say, okay, and I think Joe's done a good job of pointing out the areas, but then taking that stuff and then, and putting out a draft, because when this goes to a vote, you're gonna have to have a written, thing for people to look at and say, here's what you're actually voting on.
Correct.
So there's two, and I think that some of that could be done my point is it could be done outside of a meeting,
Yes,
because otherwise we're gonna spend, not we, but the ordinance review committee.
We spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah,
so I'm glad you said that, because I don't want to lose the momentum that we had started on saying, we have a whole bunch of other grammatical type stuff, errors. We could throw that into the
I think so.
list of like picking a day, right?
I think so.
And just try to bang out as many of those.
Pick a Saturday, and a few of us that want to come in and bring a laptop and actually make the changes.
Yes, yep.
I think it would go more quickly that way.
and
agree.
also just as a point, the charter commission, I think Dave remembers this too. Who was it, Amber, or somebody had a projector, could actually
Michelle.
project on the wall there, and
Yeah.
if as long as you were close enough to read it and your eyes were working, some of us had issues. with that.
That was really helpful, because you did it right there in real time, everybody saw it.
Yeah.
She buzzed right through it.
But
You have to
somebody
have-
who's gotta have that technology.
You have to have somebody who's
to do
really,
that,
really
To do that.
quick.
Yeah.
We did that when we did the comprehensive
I
plan.
did talk to Michelle about that, and she thought that she might know somebody that could help us out.
I have a projector that we can use too, if somebody.
So the
I-
town-
You know who that person was?
Who?
That was you.
Mike,
Boy, look at the time, it's getting late.
No, she,
Mike?
yeah, she did, she says your background. and-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's funny.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thanks
no,
for
I-
volunteering, Mike.
Yep, there you go. See, there was a sucker, Don.
Mike, when we did the comprehensive plan, there was something came out of this closet that was a projector. I think the town has one.
Yeah, if they don't, like I said, I've got that, and that makes sense, I agree, it's the quickest and easiest way to do it, and so every now I get, who was the one that provided a list of the grammatical errors? Oh, was it Cecile?
Yes.
Okay, I forgot who it was, so yeah, I think she'd already gone through and said, here's a whole bunch of like,
Yep.
no brainer type
got the-
grammatical errors that we could correct. Okay, perfect, okay. So we'll just add that to the list, stuff we can just bang out in one fell swoop on a separate day, and get that done. And anything else that falls into that category, we can just load it on there, and whatever we got time for, we'll get through.
She also did the changes right there and then, which was huge.
Yes.
You know, how,
Yep.
you know, Dave's taking the notes, going back, doing it.
Yep.
Bringing it to us, we look at,
Yeah, because
sit
I'm
there
not confident.
do it in
to
real time.
To do it in real time, so,
it's,
yeah, somebody else needs
Yeah,
to.
we-
yeah.
it goes a lot smoother.
Strangely
Yeah, no, I
enough,
agree.
we had Josh Gerard, the guy who has the CSA up on 202. Josh was able to sit there working in Mac, and he was making like changes to this chart while we were talking.
I mean, that's not me, I'm a fast two-finger
Yeah,
typer.
it's
but
not
if we
me.
got- if we got I can connect the technical part for you, that's not a problem. But if somebody's a faster typer than me, raise your hand, because it's not me. But,
Yeah.
you know, I could get through it if we needed to, but it'd be better for somebody that can actually type.
Just actually gonna have to, when you're doing that, is turn on track changing,
Yes,
because when it goes on the warrant, you've got to see the
Oh,
old
yeah.
verbiage
Yes.
and the new verbiage. So if you turn on track changing, that comes up for you anyway. So
Yes.
remember to do that.
yeah, and that's why I said, this kind of goes back to what we had talked about for like 3 meetings at the beginning, was having the official electronic copy that we're changing. Here's what we have, we all agree, this is the electronic version of what's stamped in the safe today, and this is what we're gonna change, and you start making those changes with track changes. Now, that you're doing it to the copy of Word, which we said is the current copy of that. So,
As far as we've gotten, yeah. the
As far as
first
we've gotten.
10 pages or whatever.
and,
yeah.
and just a point of clarification, does the version that you have track changes
I
turned
have
on?
no idea what track changes are. so.
Okay, that answers my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a, just a checkbox.
So we might have to
I
just-
physically go in there and scratch stuff out and put the new stuff in.
Okay.
That's the way, that's why it takes me a while to do it.
Well, we haven't gotten really that far anyway, so it wouldn't be hard to like, not, I think.
Is that a Word thing, the track changes?
Yes.
I can go in and see if I have it. I may have it.
There
I
is.
just never
Well, if you
use it.
want me, just let me know and I'll swing over and I'll show you at your house. Yeah.
The
Okay.
other thing, on the land use chart, when I send you these examples,
Mhm.
don't be overwhelmed. Some of these towns have 12 different zones. So don't look at the zone part of it, look at the list part of it, because that's another level. After we plug in more uses, we have to decide which zones are they going to be allowed in. So
Right.
that's another whole level.
Yeah, well, it might be helpful to look at what they assigned it to say,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Would that apply to one of ours? No. Well, you know, that's a different
See where
discussion.
they allowed it, see where, just
Right.
as a suggestion,
Yep, I agree.
12 zones.
Yeah. I better, I mean, there's so many issues. I just say, pick 2 or 3. I mean, you gotta get some that are really needed and jam those through because of the timeline here, because it's gonna come up so fast. It really is.
No,
Yeah, but if we set it up, if you can set that up,
Yeah.
like, we can attack it that way.
Yeah.
But then it's already in format.
Yeah.
So as we, reconvene or keep going,
Correct.
Go for this Saturday. It's a rain out anyway.
Go for it, I won't be here. And where I'm going, it'll be sunny. So, yeah, no, I agree.
You never know.
And, I mean, to me, it doesn't have to be on a Saturday. I know everybody's, got, that week, might get stacked up, but if it was a day during the week, that's fine with me too, if the room's available or whatnot, but I agree Saturday is easier, because usually nobody's here. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
So a Saturday, order some pizzas.
Yep.
We'll
Yep.
pay.
Okay. Yep. Maybe we could probably potentially shoot for, obviously not this well, problem is, we leave Saturday, I don't get back till Saturday, so if you want me involved, it might be 3 Saturdays from now, but
you going to the East Coast?
Daytona Beach.
Oh, it's cyclone.
Yeah.
Hit that.
I know. I've already looked, Dave, because I'm fully expecting, that's my luck, is I get on a plane and, I watched Felipe and I was like, oh, that's gonna hit me and I'm already gonna be there. So, yeah. Yep. Okay, this is good. Thank you, Joe, by the way, for doing that. That's super helpful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of go through that and save us some time, so thank you very much. So, what else? You're not gonna hurt my feelings if you say you want to end early tonight. So I can.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
You got a lot done.
All in favor? All
All
right.
in favor?
Thank you for,
Aye.
that concludes the workshop. Again, we didn't have a quorum, so it's a workshop, but we have some stuff to bring forth for the next meeting. And I agree, it was a very productive workshop, so thank you all. Appreciate that.
So there wouldn't be any minutes of tonight.
Yeah, I'll throw some together, because even with a workshop, you want minutes.